Late last month, the Nobel Prize-winning computer scientist went on CNN and said 2026 is the year AI stops being a productivity tool and starts replacing workers outright. Not augmenting, replacing. And I've been tracking this for months now. The research, the VC sentiment, the corporate decisions, the media coverage. The owners of the AI companies themselves, they're all pointing in the same direction. We are at a massive inflection point. People like Elon Musk are calling 2026 the year of the singularity. And if you don't understand what's happening, you're going to get blindsided. So let me walk you through exactly what's going on, who's going to get crushed, and who's going to thrive. But most importantly, what you can do about it. Okay, so let's start with the data that's out there from a bunch of different sources. The World Economic Forum has estimated that 85 million jobs could be displaced by automation, including AI, in the coming years. Goldman Sachs puts the global exposure even higher. 300 million jobs. Studies like those from MIT and others estimate around 12% of the US workforce, nearly 20 million workers representing $1.2 trillion in annual wages, could be automated using AI systems that exist right now. Not in the future, not some theoretical superintelligence, current AI. Systems you can use today. Systems companies are already deploying. Researchers have modeled US labor exposure, showing that if you only look at where AI is currently being deployed, in tech companies, in coding, in obvious use cases, you think maybe 2% of the workforce is exposed, but if you factor in what AI could do today at competitive costs, the real number is around 12%. That's the iceberg. What you see above the water is a tiny fraction of what's below it. And I want to be really clear about what at competitive costs actually means, because that's the key phrase. It doesn't mean AI is better than humans at those jobs. It means AI is cheaper than humans at these jobs while being good enough. Good enough is the bar. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be superhuman, just good enough at a fraction of the price. And that bar keeps getting lower as the models improve. TechCrunch ran a survey in late December. They asked 24 enterprise-focused VCs what they expected from AI in 2026, and multiple investors independently, without being prompted, flagged labor displacement as the biggest AI story of the year. Jason Mendel from Battery Ventures put it this way: 2026 will be the year of agents as software expands from making humans more productive to automating work itself. Not making humans more productive, automating work itself. That's a massive shift in how Silicon Valley is thinking about this problem. And for years, the narrative was that AI will be a co-pilot. AI helps you write emails faster. It will help you code more efficiently. It augments your work. Now the narrative is changing. Now it's AI as a replacement. AI does the work instead of you. Rajiv Dam from Sapphire said 2026 budgets will shift resources from labor to AI. Meryl Evans from Exceptional Capital predicted companies will pull money directly from their hiring budgets to fund AI projects. These are the people writing the checks. They're not bot swarms on X or Facebook or TikTok. They're telling you where the money is going. Now let's talk about Hinton, because his warning is particularly striking. Geoffrey Hinton spent his career building the foundations of modern AI. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for that work. He left Google in 2023 specifically so he could speak freely about the risks, and on CNN's State of the Union late last month, he made some very concrete predictions. Quote, AI will replace many jobs. It's already able to replace jobs in call centers, but it's going to be able to replace many other jobs. He explained that AI capability is improving exponentially. So think about that for a second. What took an hour a year ago takes minutes now. What took a month will soon take hours, and this isn't theoretical. If you've used ChatGPT or Claude or any of the other tools, the AI tools, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The jump from GPT-3 to GPT-4 and where we are now, it's not linear, it's exponential. And most people don't have good intuitions for exponential growth, myself included. Let me put it this way. AI capabilities double multiple times a year, meaning in about 2 years, AI is many times more capable. In 3 years, it's orders of magnitude ahead, another way of saying 10 times or more. We're not talking about small incremental improvements, step-by-step changes. We're talking about fundamentally different capability levels in very short timeframes. Hinton is also saying software engineers, the people literally building AI, are going to get displaced by AI. But he went even further. He warned AI could render much of human labor obsolete. And on the economic distribution, he was equally blunt. In an earlier interview, he said AI will make a few people much richer and most people poorer. So who actually gets crushed? The research is pretty clear. The jobs most exposed are the ones that involve routine cognitive work, tasks that follow predictable patterns, that they process structured data or create formulaic outputs. repeatable. Customer service representatives, telemarketers, bookkeepers, paralegals doing document review, entry-level programmers, credit analysts, proofreaders, administrative assistants, interpreters and translators. Basically, if your job involves processing information and producing text, numbers, or decisions that can be systematized or automated with software, you are in the crosshairs. Goldman Sachs estimates 2/3 of jobs in the US and Europe are exposed to some degree of AI automation. A quarter of those jobs could be done entirely by AI, and the biggest key difference here is that white-collar workers are more at risk than manual laborers. Studies have found that the highest exposure is in urban centers like New York or San Francisco, legal services, accounting, human resources. Some roles could see up to 20% of their tasks automated with current technology. But here's the really concerning part. Recent labor market data shows challenges for young workers in high AI exposure occupations. And the key insight is truly devastating. Disruption is at the entrance, not the exit. So what does that mean? Employers aren't firing people en masse, at least not yet. They're just not hiring new ones. They're raising the bar. They're deciding they'd rather have AI plus a few experienced humans than train a bunch of entry-level workers. This is the silent displacement that nobody talks about. The jobs that never get created. The careers that never get started. Prime age workers in the same roles are largely unaffected right now. It's the young people trying to break in who are getting shut out. The ones that have taken tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt that will exit college with little to no job market to work in because AI would likely be doing all the work they would have been doing, but instead of learning on the job after college, companies are hiring AIs that are infinitely more capable and reliable. Why train someone who has never worked a corporate job when you can just use AI? And this is actually the sneaky part, right? Because there's no mass layoff announcement. There's no viral news story. There's no company saying, we replaced 10,000 workers with AI. It just quietly happens. A company that would have hired 50 graduates now hires 10. A law firm that would have bought on 20 paralegals brings in 5. No one makes a press release about jobs that were never created. So if you're 22 years old and you just graduated looking for your first real job in marketing or accounting or paralegal or junior software development, you're competing against a wall of AI that didn't exist 3 years ago. And most people aren't even aware this is happening because it's invisible. If you want to hear more of my thinking on these topics, I talk about it constantly on this channel, but I also talk about it on Farzad.fm. We do exclusive Q&As and I share my research, and we have a private Discord where we discuss AI, investing, and what's actually happening in the economy. Check it out if you're interested. Okay, so there's something else happening in 2026 that makes it different from 24 or 25. It's the rise of what Silicon Valley calls agentic AI. And so what's the difference between regular AI and agentic AI? Regular AI answers questions. You ask it something, it gives you an answer. Basically your standard ChatGPT experience. Agentic AI completes tasks. You tell it what you want done, and it figures out how to do it end to end. Gartner predicts significant growth in AI agents in enterprise apps by the end of 2026, and their data shows surging interest in multi-agent systems. And companies are already showing the results. Salesforce has deployed agentic AI like Agentforce to improve customer support efficiency. And that's not the hardest thing to automate, but think about that impact. And Salesforce isn't some small company. They know what they're doing. I hope they know what they're doing. They have the resources to implement this properly. They shouldn't be cutting corners. But Salesforce isn't special. They're just one of the first companies willing to publicly talk about that impact. How many other companies are doing the exact same thing but not announcing it? How many companies are quietly reducing headcount and attributing it to efficiency improvements or restructuring without mentioning AI at all? My guess is a lot of them. McKinsey projects that agents could automate 70% of office tasks by 2030. We're not there yet, but the trajectory is clear. And 2030 sounds far away until you remember 2020 was 6 years ago. Time moves fast. The difference between 2024 and 2026 is the difference between a tool and a worker. A tool helps you write an email. A worker writes the email, sends it, follows it up, schedules the meeting, takes notes, and creates the action items. That's what agents do. That's why the conversation is shifting from AI will make you more productive to AI might make you unnecessary. Now, here's where I think most analysis gets it completely wrong. People frame AI impact as either doom or utopia. Either we'll lose all our jobs and we'll starve, or AI is going to create abundance for everyone. The reality is more nuanced than that, and honestly more uncomfortable. The way I see it, AI is going to be incredible for two groups, the top 20% and the bottom 20% of the global socioeconomic ladder. And the middle 60%, that's where it gets messy. For the bottom 20%, AI will eventually deliver abundance, desalination at scale, cheap housing through automated construction, accessible healthcare through AI diagnostics, entertainment that costs basically nothing, the basic needs of life, food, shelter, medicine. All of that gets dramatically cheaper when you can automate production. That's the optimistic long-term picture. And I genuinely believe that's where we end up eventually. But the question is how long eventually it takes and how painful the transition is. For the top 20%, the capital owners, the entrepreneurs, the people who can deploy AI systems, this is an unprecedented opportunity. You can build businesses that would have required 50 employees with 5 employees, or 1 or 0. If you have capital to deploy AI, you can compete with companies that have 10 times your headcount. The leverage is insane. I've experienced this personally. I use AI every single day for research, for writing, for analysis. Things that would have taken me hours now take minutes. I'm more productive than I've ever been, but I'm in the top 20%. I own the means of production per se. I'm deploying the AI, not competing against it. I'm extremely fortunate to be in the position that I'm in right now. I truly am. But the middle 60%, these are the people who spend most of their time building on behalf of others to earn a living wage. Accountants, paralegals, customer service reps, administrative assistants, junior programmers, market coordinators. These are all in the white-collar realm. And eventually, once AI makes it to the physical world in the form of human or robots, self-driving cars, and different form factors, it will also impact drivers, warehouse and factory workers, laborers, construction workers, and on and on and on. They're the ones whose labor is most directly competing with AI systems that can work 24/7 at a fraction of the cost. That's the barbell. The extremes benefit. The middle gets squeezed. And without significant government intervention, training programs, adjustment assistance, maybe even UBI, the transition for that middle 60% could get ugly, not just economically, but socially. And this isn't just my opinion. AI companies like Anthropic are researching economic impacts of automation. There are now many podcasts on YouTube from people at the forefront of AI talking about the risk. Elon Musk on Moonshots, Tony Robbins on A Diary of a CEO, Tristan Harris, and many others. Now, I don't want to leave you just with doom and gloom because there's a massive opportunity hidden in all of this. Chaos is a ladder. Do you remember that quote? Chaos is a ladder. If AI is going to displace millions of workers, someone has to build, power, and maintain all these AI systems, but not just the compute clusters and the physical infrastructure to power AI, but the entire economy that's going to be built on top of it. That's where the money is going to flow. Analysts estimate hyperscaler AI capital expenditure, basically the money that companies like OpenAI, xAI, Google are going to spend, is approaching $500 billion annually by 2026. That money goes somewhere. It goes to the chip makers like NVIDIA, but it also goes to the data center companies like CoreWeave, which went from almost no revenue in 2022 to $1.9 billion in 24 and is expected to exceed $10 billion in 26. But it also goes to the utilities that power these systems. It goes to the nuclear power plants that provide consistent baseload energy. The AI market itself is projected to grow from $235 billion in 24 to over $631 billion in 28, nearly tripling in 4 years. And certain careers are actually becoming more valuable because of AI, not less. Data scientists, as an example, are seeing 36% projected job growth through 2033. Cybersecurity analysts, 33% growth. Nurse practitioners, 47% growth, the highest of any occupation. Mental health counselors, 22% growth. Electricians, 11% growth, nearly double the overall job market. And why? Because these jobs either build AI, protect against risks of AI, or provide something AI fundamentally cannot: genuine human connection and physical presence. Stanford research confirms this. AI struggles with tasks requiring genuine human emotion, creativity, physical dexterity, and ethical judgment. If you're a plumber, an electrician, a therapist, a nurse, your job isn't going anywhere. If anything, you're going to become more valuable as cognitive work gets commoditized. The scarce resources becomes human touch, human judgment, human presence. And this is kind of ironic, right? For decades, we told kids, don't go to trades, go to college, get a white-collar job. And now we're entering an era where the trades might be safer than the office jobs. The plumber making $80 an hour or more because you can't send a robot to fix a pipe in someone's basement, that's a defensible career. The junior analyst making $60,000 a year doing work that ChatGPT can already do, That's not defensible. The world is about to flip in some really unexpected ways. So how should you think about all of this? There's a simple economic principle called Stein's law. It says if something cannot go on forever, it will stop. The current model, where humans do routine cognitive work that AI can do faster, cheaper, and at infinite scale, cannot go on forever. It will stop. The only questions are when and how disruptive the transition is. 2026 looks like the year the transition accelerates, not because of one breakthrough, but because AI agents are finally good enough to automate entire workflows, not just assist with individual tasks. The infrastructure is in place. The models are capable. The economic incentives are aligned. So the real question isn't whether this is happening, it's whether you're positioned on the right side of it. Are you building skills AI can't replace? Are you investing in companies that benefit from AI deployment? Are you thinking about how to be a capital owner deploying AI rather than a worker competing against it? Hinton's quote is very clear. It will make a few people much richer and most people poorer. And if you think about it logically, at least for the transitionary period that we're about to embark on, this is not only probable, but certain. That's the choice being made right now, whether you're paying attention or not. The distribution of AI's benefits isn't predetermined. It's being decided by who understands what's happening and positions accordingly. This is a huge deal for everyone watching this. And if you're someone who's been following the Musk ecosystem, Tesla, SpaceX, XAI, you probably already understand the long-term implications of exponential technology better than most. This is the same pattern. AI is following the same curve that EVs followed, that rockets followed, that solar followed. The skeptics say it can't happen, then it happens faster than anyone expected. And knowing a lot of you are following Musk industry closely, I've partnered with Rebellionaire to sponsor this video. Rebellionaire is an investment firm run by Bradford Ferguson and Matt Smith that's tailored specifically for investors who understand this long-term technology thesis. They get the AI, they get Tesla, they understand why you hold through volatility when the technology curve is on your side. Typical investment firms often do not understand Tesla and Musk industry, so they are incapable of giving you the guidance that you should be getting. But Bradford and Matt have been following the story arc of Tesla for years. They understand Optimus Bot's impact on labor, self-driving, energy, the whole thing. And they will use this knowledge to deploy strategic actions like selling covered calls, adding and trimming, etc. So if you have more than $2 million in Tesla stock and want to partner with someone who actually understands exponential technology, go to rebellionaire.com/Farzad. That's rebellionaire.com/Farzad. And that's how they'll know that I sent you. Look, the reality is I don't know how exactly this is going to play out or how fast it's going to play out. Could it be that 26, everything changes? Sure. Could it be that it takes until 28 or 30 for the full impact? Of course. But the direction is clear. The data is clear. The smart money is positioning accordingly. It's clear and obvious. The people who understand this transition, who can see where the puck is going, have an opportunity to build generational wealth. The people who don't will wonder what happened. And I want to be clear about something. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to give you financial investment advice. I'm trying to inform you. There is a difference. Fear paralyzes. Information empowers. The people who are going to thrive through this transition aren't the ones who bury their heads in the sand. They're the ones who see clearly what's happening and position accordingly. They look the future in the eyes, however scary it may be, and make the decisions they need to make in order to position themselves appropriately. That's all I'm trying to do. So which side are you positioning for? Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative and helpful, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.